Hi, and welcome to a special episode of the We Need a Rose podcast, where for a change, we're not reviewing a show or a movie, but instead talking about the top 3 books that we each want to see adapted for the screen, be it cinema or streaming. So it's going to be a round table format where we each take a turn, and at the end of the pod, you'll have 9 new books to catch up on that we heartily recommend and should be commissioned immediately by money-grabbing bastards. Joining me today is our resident Book Talk expert, who's only just explained to me what Book Talk is, and I'm not quite sure I really want to know more about it. Marie.
Yeah, Book Talk is... It's an interesting place to be.
How did you explain it in the group chat, Marie?
What did I
say?
Jose.
I believe it's basically lusting over fictional characters.
Oh, yes. I mean, to be honest, I completely I agree with that, because boys in books are better, and girls in books, maybe. But that is a general fact.
And making his debut on the We Need a Rose podcast today, a fellow member of the Podpack Collective group chat from Twitter, because we're never going to call it X, Luke from the Howdy Beans podcast. Luke is a regular commentator on most of our episodes and also puts most of us to shame with the sheer amount of content he puts out each week. So, Luke, tell our listeners and our viewers who you are and what your podcast is all about.
Oh, well, it's an absolute pleasure. Long-time listener, first-time caller, as they say. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. It really is. Like I said, I enjoyed the show. So to be given the opportunity to come here and talk about books, which no one ever asked me to talk about books. So I was like ecstatic. But yes, I'm Luke from the Howdy Beans podcast. I'm a variety podcast. I do it on my own. Yes, I do a lot of content. To be honest, I pre-record most of my episodes because I just love to record, really. I think I've got about 13 or so saved at the moment. But yeah, I'm a variety podcast. We do books, we do video games, movies, anything really, mostly obscure. So anything that's not everybody else is talking about. If nobody's talking about it, I want to talk about it, which is basically much my bread and butter, to be honest. So to talk about books that haven't been turned into movies today is an absolutely brilliant honor and a privilege, to be honest, especially with you lovely people as well.
Okay, well, that makes us sound much more important than we are.
Yeah. Neil, what is this pre-recording thing I'm here about? I'm not familiar with that concept.
No, it's generally I watch stuff and say, guys, if you've seen it, and then you go, oh yeah, we'll go and watch that. Or one of you will go, I just watched something. And then we'll harass everyone else to watch it in a short amount of time. And if it happens within a week or so of something coming out or dropping on there, then we'll record and we'll do it. And then rush to get it out as soon as humanly possible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've ever had a buffer episode. We had Daredevil for a while just because more interesting stuff came out.
It's a luxury only to us solo podcasters. I feel like if you're in a group of people, it's hard to pre-record and do stuff like that.
I mean, I think the other issue we have as well is we always talk about stuff that's just come out.
Yeah.
So this episode, it might not be the next one out. It could come out whenever, because there is no time limit in it, which is great. So, okay, so first up, I'm going to dive right in, and I want to talk about J. Kristoff's Empire of the Vampire. Has anyone heard of this book?
No, and I kind of wish David were here, because he had some choice words about this book. But David's been disqualified for only submitting children's books to this.
Yeah. Monkey Puzzle is not ready for an adaptation yet. It just isn't.
I thought it was a Stephen King book. Did you? It's until you sent the photo. Oh.
I think David's just still mad at me because when I recommended this book, it was really long, and David is a chronically slow reader. And so I think it took up half his year, where I was like, I think it's shy under a month it got me through. But yeah, so you've not heard it, Marie. Luke, have you heard of this book?
I've heard of J. Kristoff. I haven't heard of this book.
Right, yeah, so a little bit about J. Kristoff then. So Kristoff is from Perth, Australia. He worked in TV advertising for 11 years before his career as a writer took off, and his debut novel was Storm Dancer, part of the Lotus War, a steampunk Japanese-inflected series. Quite soon you realise that this man is very good at doing trilogies and actually completing them. He's done the Illuminae quadrilogy, so he chucked an extra one in there, the Nevernight Chronicle trilogy, the Lifelike trilogy, the Aurora Cycle trilogy, and finally Empire of the Vampire, and if you guessed it, it's going to be a trilogy. Now, admittedly, Empire of the Vampire is the first book of his I've read, but frankly, as I said, at least this man knows how to finish the series. He's completed 5 different series already behind him, so when he says he's got the third book and the last book in the series coming out, you actually know he's probably going to deliver it. Empire of the Vampire came out in 2021. Its sequel, Empire of the Damned, only came out last year in 2024, and currently, the third and final book, Empire of the Dawn, is due out this year. So, as they say in Australia, fair dinkum. Kristoff can churn him out. Now, let me set the stage. In a world where the sun has been blackened out of the sky for decades, vampires now rule the world, with mankind plunged into a relentless war for survival. Our main protagonist is Gabrielle de Leon, a legendary member of a vampire-killing religious order known as the Silver Saints. And the story begins with Gabrielle incarcerated by one of our main villains, the Undying Empress, and rather than kill him, she sends her personal historian, Jean-Francois Chastain, to hear his life story. So, the title of the book should clue you into what the story is about. It's full-on vampire action-adventure horror. Think a bloody mashup of equal parts Game of Thrones and The Witcher. It's just brutal, bloody, and it was just an absolute... I couldn't put it down. It is one of those books where they say it's a page-turner. And I like how they use the interview with the vampire conceit. So, it's also similar to Patrick Rothruss's In the Name of the Wind, where it starts off with like the main character recounting his life. And it's kind of cool to read it that way because at any point it can jump to a different part of the story. So, they'll set up a massive cliffhanger in one chapter and then he gets a cob on with the guy asking him the questions and refuses to answer anymore. And then you have to go back to something else. So I was like, so it's really well constructed in that way. There is more than a little of The Last of Us in this as well, in that the story that Gabriel has to escort a potentially special young person called Dior on a journey. And of course, what legendary vampire killer doesn't have a whole boatload of secrets and emotional trauma in his past? It also reminded me of Netflix's Castlevania show in a lot of ways, in that it portrays a world where vampires are in total control and a decimated humanity is kind of left on the brink of extinction, but also explores like all the real treacherous political machinations of the various different ruling vampire families. So I really enjoyed that. And what I love about this book is just it's brutal, it's bloody, and it genuinely makes vampires fucking scary again. And as I know you're going to ask, Marie, but is it gay? I mean, vampires.
Actually, the first question on my mind was, do the vampires have mustaches?
I mean, some, but not key.
Well, thanks to Nosferatu, all vampires now need mustaches. It's the thing is what they need, isn't it?
God, it looked so bad. I can't get over that mustache.
That was the scariest part of the movie, just having to stare at the mustache all day. Trust in me.
I mean, it's just because like Sonic came out at the same time, so it just was like the image. It was like, yeah. Anyway, we already did a Nosferatu review, so. But yes, second question, is it gay?
Kind of, because one of the characters is, but they are more of a side character than the main character. And a quick Google showed there was actually some consternation from the LGBTQ plus community in how the book was marketed when it came out, because apparently it was marketed as this great LGBTQ plus vampire fantasy epic, and its gay content was more of a side element than a main plotline.
Which year did this book come out?
2021.
Oh yeah, no. Oh. Like with earlier books, like it could have been, because then you really had, in the earlier days, we really had to just settle. Like like if there was a gay character in it, we were just like yes. But now it's just like nah, like we're not settling anymore.
Well, so my next thought was, would this work best as a film or a TV show? And if you had the budget, each book could easily be a film. But then these are such large books. I mean, we're talking, I think 600-700 pages per book. And I just think a lot of great character beats will be lost. So, I think Prestige TV, give it to HBO, give it to Apple. This is your best bet for this type of show. I could easily see it working as like a 4 or 5 season show because, like I say, the books are quite massive. So, casting. And maybe it's simply because the main character's name is De Leon and the similarities to The Last of Us. And he's in everything. But I could totally see Pedro Pascal rocking this film.
Okay, sold. I'm on board.
Yeah, you had me.
Pedro Pascal playing a vampire.
Hunter.
I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet.
Oh,
you know
Hunter.
I
mean?
Oh.
Yeah. A part of a religious vampire killing order. And the thing is, he doesn't look anything like the illustrations from the book, but I'd kind of shy away from them anyway, because the illustrations in the book are literally just like generic long-haired tattooed emo guy, like every other character in the illustrations. Looking around the internet, the other picks people suggested, and this is purely just because they'd been in other fantasy shows before, was Richard Madden, Charlie Hunnam, even Aaron Taylor-Johnson, who absolutely, after seeing 28 years later, could do that role. And again, because he's already done it in The Witcher, Cavill, again, would be superb in this. Give him a sword. We know Cavill can deliver. But I was looking kind of like at the less well-known names, because if you're going to go for TV, you might have a little bit of a lower thing. And two of the ones I really liked that sprang up, Tom Burke or Jamie Dornan.
Ooh.
Rather going for, the more actor than the big guy who just, smashes stuff around. I don't want to get too much into casting the other roles because there's just way too many characters. Whoever makes this book a reality, absolutely, yes. Rebecca Ferguson would make an excellent evil vampire queen. And yes, Cillian Murphy would make a great vampire king overlord. And for the young character Dior, Grace McKenna, who played Phoebe in the new Ghostbusters film, absolutely would smash it. She would have that kind of, she'd just be so good at that role. So, have I sold this to you? I think I have, because I mentioned Pedro. I think Marie's one is only insistent on if Pedro Pascal was cast as Gabrielle, though.
I mean, yeah, like, it's not gay enough by the sounds of it, and we already have Interview with a Vampire, so...
Which is much gayer, yeah.
Which, you know, I absolutely loved. But then again, unless they have ridiculous mustaches, I'm usually game for vampires.
Okay, cool.
Like, I'm just surprised that Pedro hasn't been a vampire yet, or some sort of vampire hunter.
No, he has been. He was in Buffy.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer when he was like 22.
Yes, he was. That was his first role. Yes.
Yeah, and then he, like, sorry if people haven't seen that episode, but yeah, he got turned into a vampire in that one.
I think the moratorium on spoilers for Buffy is past, Marie.
Yeah, I think it's like, that was his first role as well. But even so, like, it'd be cool to see Pedro now, shall we say, in his prime. He's always been in his prime. But now in his prime, being like a vampire lord or even a hunter would be brilliant as well.
Yeah,
you definitely sold me on it. Like I said, I've got a lot, because I used to do Bookstagram, which is like Book Talk but on Instagram. So I know that there's a lot of people that really love Jay Kristoff, and I know he's one of them people that you can rely on, like you said, to write a book and finish it. Where you get, like, again, I'm going to pick on Stephen King, where like he will write loads of books, but his endings aren't great. Or like you get like George R.R. Martin, where it's like, oh, I'll do it next year, and it's been 14 years now since Winds of Winters.
Yeah,
so it's good to know that if you get into it, you're gonna get a revelation, you're gonna get a resolution where it's like you at least know what's gonna happen. So you've definitely sold me on it. If it's the gayness, don't bother me so much. But as long as I've got a good story, I'm here for.
Yeah, and like I say, I think just like the mix of, it's not wholly original. And it is kind of predictable within its tropes, but it's just fun to read. It's like you find sometimes in a lot of fantasy novels, the authors get bogged down in the world building. There's like, I've created this amazing world, and now I just want to spend. That's my biggest complaint with Wheel of Time. When I checked out about book 5 or 6, I was just like, oh, David's not here to defend Wheel of Time, which is funny because he's still not finished it. And
I have finished it, so
yeah,
it's on my list. I haven't started, but I will get there.
I did. I'm not a big defender of the Wheel of Time.
It's not like a sacred text.
Yeah, I appreciate for what it is, but I wouldn't put it in like my top favorites, even because I just read too much.
Well, okay, Luke, as our guest, what is your first book?
This is one that I'm surprised that you two didn't choose. I definitely thought Marie was going to choose this one. Skulduggery Pleasent. I don't understand how this legendary series, it's been around since I was at school, which I'm 27, so a long time ago, is such a loved, huge series. It spans like 13, 15 books at this point, Maria. I think
I've lost track. Derek just pumps out like every single year. It's
still ongoing.
Yeah, no, he finished the series like a couple of years back while I was like finishing like my final year of high school. And then, like, a few years later, he was just like, you know what? I'm not done. I'm going to keep going. So, yeah, I've lost track at this point as well.
Yeah. But, like, he's done, like, say, let's say, argument's sake, 15 books. And I just don't understand why it's not caught on to be a series or movie yet. Because, like, Skulduggery Pleasant, you've got this main guy, Skulduggery. He's a detective, but he's dead. Like, the visuals alone are brilliant. But then you set it in Ireland, and that you have all of the mythological creatures, you have the magic, you've got the spells, you've got the sort of Celtic lore as well, and everything that expands upon that. It's one of those where you sit there and you think, why haven't they tapped it? But at the same stage, and again, some of you might feel this with some of your choices, the fact of it's still so pure that you don't want it to be ruined by being taken onto the screen, because you know that they will change things, they won't do it the way faithfully, because again, people like to leave their mark on things. You'll get like, oh, let's do an original story, but let's change it so I've got my mark on, it's my movie sort of thing. So that's what kind of puts me off. But I feel like it'd be a great series. I don't know how they would do it. I think it would have to be a series. You couldn't do a movie because there's so many books and there's so much lore to do. So just cram it all into one film wouldn't be possible. the hardest part about this was choosing who I feel like could do Skulduggery and do Valkyrie Kane. It's difficult, but I try my best. So I thought you've got to go Irish. It has to be an Irish.
Luke, I would have kicked you off the podcast if you haven't gone with Irish actors.
But they all have to be Irish. They have to be, right? It was difficult to find a young Valkyrie Kane. This is going to be a difficult one. So I thought for an older one would be Eve Houston. Hewson, I think I pronounced it
Bad
right.
Sisters.
Yeah, she's been in some brilliant things recently, and I feel like she would do a really great job as an older sort of Valkyrie. As for Skulduggery, this one was a bit difficult because you need somebody who's got the voice. Because Skulduggery, he's going to be a school, you're not going to see their face. You need somebody who's got a voice where they've got, when they walk into a room, you sit and listen, but they can also be jokey and have a laugh at the same time. So I went with Aidan Turner. He's just got the gravity. He's got that voice, and to me, I think he just sells it. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the series. Like I said, I've only read the first 5 books, but each one just gets better and better. They're the type of book that when you read one, you can't like sit and be like, oh, okay, I'll put it on the back burner. I was like, I've got to read the next one and then the next one. So I deliberately, after the 5th book, I think it was Mortal Coil. I think it was the last book that I read.
Yeah.
More cool. I had to pull myself back a little because at that point it starts to get darker. With these books, I feel like as you read them, as Valkyrie gets older, the tone of the books shift where they get left from being more fanciful to darker, bloody. There's fighting, there's gore, there's death. There's
shit gets dark, especially in
it does.
After the Resurrection series. You're just like, holy fuck.
I really appreciate when a book series does that because the book series and the author grows up with the audience. They realize that the audience are no longer kids when in the first book. And as the characters grow up, the readers will grow up with it. So the tone changes. And I love that shift. So that I feel like you could, if you wanted to, not that you should, but you could jump anywhere in the Skulduggery Pleasent series and get whatever you want out of it. But obviously, I'd always recommend start at the beginning. But yeah, I'm just, there's so many characters. Look, there's so many characters in this. That's just the main 2 characters. You've got China, you've got Ghastly, you've got all of the different people of the Order. You've got some of the villains that I've got the most. I'm trying to think of one of the names now. You've got like Tanith Lowe. You've got so many wonderful characters, and all of them got to be Irish actors. And it's just, yeah, it's.
Tanith is English.
Yeah, I know. But I just don't understand as to why.
Even so, Marie, they all need to be Irish, no?
No.
Yeah. And it also answers the question. I would say this series is gay in a way, yeah.
No, it gets. Yeah, it does. Yeah, because like the first book was written in 2007, and what like Derek Landy does really well is that like his books reflect the time that is at. So like the books that are coming out now are more queer inclusive, have queer characters, have non-binary characters. Derek Landy is a straight white man. So it's like, I wouldn't say it's perfect, but it still shows that he puts that effort in. So I do appreciate that. There's also the whole, like, which I generally really, like, this is why I also think all vampires are gay. It's because like the wizards in this book have a long lifespan. So they're just like, why would you restrict yourself to just one gender? That's ridiculous. Like it's, I just love that mentality. Exactly. Yeah. So experiment, be free. So that's been in there since the beginning.
So the book is essentially about a dead Irish detective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's a skeleton. Who's a skeleton. And solves crimes around Dublin, but it starts off like that, but then gets like way more intense.
The world
expands out.
The world builds up. And Luke, you're saying like each book is addictive. Imagine how I felt because when I started this book, there was only 4 out. I had to go like this was like because obviously I grew up in Dublin, so this was like a day in our school. The day the Skulduggery books came out, it's just like everyone ran to the bookstore and bought the new copy, and then everyone read it in a day except for me because I'm dyslexic and I read slow. And then the arguments that broke out, like it was just intense, and people like getting mad at people and shouting out spoilers. And I think it was with Mortal Coil when there was a rumor that Skulduggery was gonna die, and everyone was just like getting like so angry at each other. It was just, I actually want to say we actually ruined quite a few birthday parties because someone's birthday always like fell during the release date. So, but Yeah.
But that's the thing about this series, this book. So again, another thing that baffles me is the fact of it was a phenomenon, and I don't know if it still is, but when I was in school, again, being dyslexic, because I struggled to read, I couldn't get involved in the conversation, so I always felt like I was missing out. It was a big thing. Like, you'd go to school, everybody would be talking about Skulduggery, and you'd want to join in the conversation, having no idea what's going on. And you just don't. I don't know if you still do, but it doesn't feel like you get that much anymore with books. Is the fact of the new one comes out, you get the small communities, but you just don't hear many people talking together. Oh my god, I read that new book. Have you read it? So it was a phenomenon, which again adds to the credence of like, why hasn't it been adapted yet? But yeah, I think it would have to be a series. I think each season should base each book, and then each series after that would be the next book and the next book, like Catching Fire and so on. Because there's no way they could cram it all into one movie, because it would they'd leave too much things out and they would change things. I just don't think it would work.
There's two things that brought me up there. If you haven't seen it on Netflix, it's not kind of the fantasy style show, but there is an Irish crime drama that I bang on about, and no one else by me has watched it, called Obituary. Now, there was one the other year called Bodkin, which was about podcasters going to Wyld, and with Will Forte, and it was okay. It wasn't great, but the lead actress in it, I forget her name now, but she was brilliant and Irish. And when that show finished, it recommended another show she was in. And I was like, oh, I'll watch that. And it was so much better than Bodkin. And it was like an RTE made Irish drama. But the second series of it is coming out anytime now. And the idea of it is she's a small town reporter who starts murdering people and then writing the news about them, because that's the only way to keep her job. Because she writes obituaries. And so it's like, I loved it. And like, literally, all the cast are Irish in it. It's brilliant. And I was just like, this is such a good show. This is better than the show that the algorithm actually made me watch in the first place. But Siobhan Cullen, that's the actress's name. So yeah, she's definitely worth checking out, and would be, if you're going to do a big Irish show, absolutely have her on. And also anyone from Kin. There's so many great actors in that. And again, we'll never get another series of that because Charlie Cox is in it, and he's now stuck in Daredevil for the foreseeable future, which means we don't get a third series of Kin until that's done, sadly. That series also reminds me of, there's another book series by a guy called Tad Williams called the Bobby Dollar Trilogy. And it's about an angel who's on Earth, and it's like a 50s film noir with angels and demons.
Ooh.
So, and it's called Happy Hour in Hell is the first book in the series. And there's stuff where he like has to go into hell wearing another demon's face and all this kind of stuff to like break someone out. And it was so good at mixing the tropes of film noir, monsters and fantasy, but also really funny. So that's and Tad Williams is the author who wrote, I think, the Dragonbone Chair trilogy, which was one of the main influences of George R.R. Martin. Except this guy finished his trilogies. So, you know.
I've got all of the Game of Thrones books over here, and I haven't read them because when I bought them, I thought, oh, the new one will come out soon. I'll wait for that one. But I haven't read them since. They are covered in dust.
You might be waiting for a long time. Like,
I'll never read them.
Years into the future of like as it's just a skeleton still waiting for the last book to come out.
Yeah.
But the reason I did not put Skulduggery on my list is I generally think it's unadaptable. Like, mainly because, of course, I love it so much, but because the main character is a skeleton, it's very difficult to, like, make that look convincing and not goofy. However, like, recently, like, my perspective has kind of changed a bit, and I think the only way this could work is in, like, an Arcane-style animated TV series. If they actually, like, animated this, and then it would get a magic, because the majority of this magic is elemental, so you've got fire, you've got water, and I think that would look really good. And the last time I met Derek Landy, it was in 2013, at a book signing. And so I actually do have an insight on the adaptation process, because that was when what we thought was the last book that came out. So we were in the queue for the book signing, and there was this really young boy in front of us. He was really, really shy. Derek is lovely. I've met him like so many like a couple of times at book signings, and I always make an ass out of myself. But this little boy just like walked over to like Derek and like placed the book in front of him, and then Derek just goes, "Oh, thank you. Like, what's your name? Do you have a question for me?" And all this boy said was, "Movie?" And then Derek, without missing a beat, just goes, "What, you're asking me out?" which is like one of my favorite moments I've witnessed of him. But then he said like he's always been in talks with people, but unless they can do it justice, he's not going to relinquish the rights. He's not going to give it up. So, and I think it is the fact that because just the main protagonist is a skeleton. And the entire cast needs to be Irish, and it needs to be filmed in Dublin. Like, there's a lot of logistical elements going for this. So
a lot of stuff is filmed in Ireland though now. A lot of stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, but not Dublin. Like, and like the majority of the story takes place in Dublin. That's why I loved like
could do the exteriors and get a soundstage somewhere, you know.
Yeah, but like because there was like so many like insights that only like Dubliners know. So like the equivalent of like the Ministry of Magic in this book is in the old wax museum because no one goes to the wax museum. I lived in Dublin for 15 years. I've never been in that museum once. The only time I actually know where it was is when I actually looked it up after reading Skulduggery Pleasant. I was like, yeah, where is the wax museum? Like it's like all these little tidbits that's like really cool for like the Irish author, and mainly because these are like these books are my childhood, so like if they fuck them up I would be like rage.
This is a riot.
And from rage, Marie, let's bring it to your first book.
So my first book is Gideon the Ninth, or the Locked Tomb series, and honestly the only way I can describe this this book and the series is lesbian necromancers in space.
Wonderful. Sold.
I'm there. I can picture it now.
This is
No, I can't actually. Tell me more.
Yeah, this is a sci-fi fantasy written by Tamsin Muir. And one of the reasons I want this to be adapted is because these books are very, let's just say, inaccessible to the average reader, which is why I hardly recommend them, even though they're fucking awesome. But these books are meant to be confusing. They're meant to feel like just like you're thrown into this world and you're like there's like a bar fight happening around you and you're just like, wait, what this, no, and you just, the idea of these books is that you reread them multiple times, picking up on different types of clues, and there's like a mystery going through it. I mean, the second book, I think, what is it, second person when it's written through, like it's written in like a format where like you're not even used to reading it, and it's so unbelievably jarring, but again, so good. There are currently 3 books in the series. The 4th one hasn't come out yet. It was meant to be a trilogy, but then they decided, Tamsin Muir decided, no, there's too much to pack in the final book. Like, I can't like go into this too much without actually spoiling the book, but basically the first book, it's a mystery. The book follows necromancers. Each necromancers are part of these houses. Gideon is part of the 9th house that specializes in bone magic. They get invited to this mysterious place. Like I can't even say like the places because that's like a reveal of this book, and you only pick it up once you reread it. But they get invited to this place to basically seek this like hidden mystery called Lictorhood, and they don't even know what that is. And basically they have to solve this mystery, this puzzle, but no one like tells them where to start, what to do. And through doing this, they realize there's bigger forces at play. And there are so many like different characters in this. Some I cannot even recall their names. Like some are just, I was about to say a spoiler, but I'm not going to say. But the star of this show is Gideon, who she is 18. She is just a wisecracking, I'm not going to say pornography addicted, but let's say porn enthusiast. And then her the banter that she has with Harrow Hark, who is technically like the leader of her house, and so technically her boss is just next level. And it is, it's brilliant, and more people need to experience the story. But I hesitate recommending the books because they're meant to be confusing. They're meant to like just make you go, what the fuck did I just read?
So in that case, how would it work as an adaptation then?
Yeah.
I think as an adaptation, it work really well, just because like the majority of these clues are visual, and like written visually is like a bit different than actually seeing things visually. So like, and there are quite a lot of mystery shows out there, so that could work. I think it still could really work as a TV series. It can't be a movie; it needs to be a TV series. The whole aspect of the books, like them like being confusing, and the rereadability about it, the fact you have to reread them multiple times, to understand them will kind of go away, but there's so much more about the story. And just like the concept itself is just so cool. Like this is a true sci-fi fantasy. Gideon like has a long sword, like chopping through skeletons. It's like that's the cover. It's not a spoiler. So whereas aviators, like she is like the most epitome of cool. Like I just would like to see her as like a live action version. Like again, animation would be a part. But yeah, this could be like a dark noir mystery where we just follow these characters along, and the main characters are 18 years old, so I don't think there's like any actors like yet that fit that description. So it would be like wise to like have the main characters like do a Game of Thrones thing where they have one big name to draw in people, and then the rest unknowns. I think it would work. Where it gets more confusing is book 2. Book 2, yeah, I had to restart book 2 quite a few times because I genuinely was just like, the fuck? Like, but it's one of those ones where you really just have to like, okay, I trust Tamsin. I'm just going to go on for the ride and see where this takes me. And then book 3 is the least confusing, but then again, you're still like, it's the meme. It's the like figuring things out. Like, what the? No, but it's, but then at the core, there's also a bigger story coming in. There's a lot of social commentary, which is why I really like this book. And I'm confident the final book will wrap everything nicely up in a bow. But I still think this could work as a TV series, but not in like a good type of mystery. Not the ones that like basically don't trust the audience and spell everything out from the very beginning, but like a slow burn mystery. This still could be with the occasional like necromancer fights in it.
Okay, I'm moderately sold on it because I think it's such a strange concept.
That's the thing. It's such a strange concept, and that's why the books itself, like I want more people to experience the story, but like. But
then you also said you were hesitant to recommend it.
Exactly, because like I'm not sure. Like maybe Luke, because he reads quite a lot of books, might have like a fighting chance with it. Neil, I think he would get so bored with the books because it's just like you just don't know what's happening. But yeah, and then it's very gay. It's very gay, which of course I appreciate it for that. It's not gay in the way you think it is.
Right.
Like in like let's just say like in book 2 there might be like without spoiling too much, so I'll keep this vague, an arm amputation scene that kind of doubles as a sex scene.
Nice. You lost me, then you had me.
Whereas I think you had me, then you lost me. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds interesting, definitely. You have pulled me in because it is a, in all seriousness, like the idea and concept of the story, it's not one I've seen before, so it'd be one I'd be interested in. But where you lost me was the fact of when you had the self-doubt where you're not sure. So I think if it was, like I said, I haven't read it, but if it was to be done in animation, there's a lot more you can do with the animation. You haven't, I don't know, would you say get around the mysteries a lot easier with animation instead of having to do it live action? And
I mean, it's still one of those ones where you have to pay attention to it. It's like where it's like right in front of you, but then only when you like start thinking and putting it together. Like for example, I solved the mystery like before like the final act happened, where I was just like, okay, I'm pretty sure this is what's going on here. So it's like it's not unsolvable. Like the clues are there. It's just like for people who are not used to reading fantasy or sci-fi at all, and then suddenly they get thrown into this like chaotic writing style and think,
I do read a lot of fantasy and sci-fi, Marie.
I mean, yes, but I mean, there's a certain way fantasy and sci-fi is written, and this is the polar opposite to that. Like,
that makes me more intrigued.
I was gonna say, is it kind of like there's like an underlying mystery, but like you can read it as it is, but if you look deeper, there's more. Is that
exactly? And that's I think the same could work as a TV show where you can put the clues in the background, and then when the final act hits, you're just like, oh, that's how it like now it all makes sense.
So it's a space necromancy lesbian version of Severance, is what you're kind of saying.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, kind of.
So basically, what you're saying is, in a couple of years' time, when Dan Erickson has finished Severance, he's your dream showrunner for this adaptation.
Oh no! I mean, they have to be gay. Like,
it's mandatory.
I think that's a way of putting it. Just replace the characters with lesbians and necromancers and like illumine with the first house, and then just
And I'm back, and I'm back in. Okay, my second choice is Nicholas Eames' Kings of the Wild, and it's the first in a kind of trilogy because the sequel was technically a sidequel, so it overlaps with the events of the first book with some of the same characters and happens at the same time the events of the first book. So already that's a bit complicated. And just to be an utter bastard, Kings of the Wild is this guy's first book. It's his debut novel, and this guy Nicholas Eames, he's born in Ontario, Canada. He went to college for theatre arts and then gave up on being an actor. And as his Google bio says, to pursue the much more attainable profession of epic fantasy novelist. I just followed him on Blue Sky to see what he was posting, and generally all his most recent posts were about the new video game Expedition 33.
That's a good game.
It's an amazing game. I just finished it last week. It's so good. That will be when we do the thing about video games that need to be adapted into shows. That will be the one right at the front.
Yes.
And also, Marie, Charlie Cox is like the main voice. So, although he plays a Frenchman called Kristoff. So,
who looks like Patrick. What is it? Robert Pattinson.
Yeah. So, weird one. But, yeah. So, what is Kings of the Wild? Well, from Ames's own... Ames? I'm going to go Ames, but with an E. From his own website, Clay Cooper was once a member of Saga, the most renowned mercenary band in the world, but has since retired to live in peace with his wife and daughter, until the night his old bandmate Gabriel, another Gabriel, shows up on his doorstep, desperate for help. This one is definitely not Pedro Pascal. Gabe's daughter, Rose, is trapped in a city half the world away, besieged by a horde of monsters known as a Heartwild Horde. Clay reluctantly agrees to go along, and together they set out to reunite the disparate members of their old band. Moog, an absent-minded wizard, Matrick, a cuckolded king held prisoner by his own wife, Ganlion, a deadly warrior who spent decades since the band disbanded, encased in stone. Reunited, they set out across the vast monster-infested forest called the Heartwild, clashing along the way with feral cannibals, vengeful gods, and a relentless bounty hunter named Larkspur. The horde awaiting them at Castia, however, is the greatest threat of all, and to overcome it, Saga must convince both their aging peers and a generation of restless youth to risk everything in the pursuit of a mercenary's most valued currency, everlasting glory. It's time to get the band back together again.
Oh, that sounds epic.
I enjoyed the hell out of this book so much that I need to go and buy it again, because I bought it, lent it to a friend, who then took a fucking year to read it, and it came back looking like it had gone through a washing machine.
Was it David?
No, it was not David. David has respect for books. My friend who does not will remain nameless.
Is he not also no longer your friend, I'm guessing?
Well, let's just say our tastes in stuff has diverged as years have gone by. It would be the politest way to say it. Simply think Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Amongst Thieves, a pinch of The Witcher, the camaraderie of Guardians of the Galaxy, all tied together with the classic rock aesthetic and comedy of A Knight's Tale with giant gladiator-style monster fights. And a heartwarming tale of aging mercenaries trying to find their place in a modern world and relive their glory days one last time. So one of the many things I love about this book is that Eames has a playlist suggestion up on his website with every chapter assigned a title that has got like a classic rock theme to it and a few songs for each chapter that he listened to while he was writing it, and also encourages the reader to listen to while they're reading it, which is just awesome.
Eric Klein did that. I think, was it Ready Player One or Armada? I think Eric Klein did that.
Yeah. And it's, do you know what? It's basically most of the same music as well, because I think they're writers of an age from that kind of genre. I mean, the track listed is pretty much all the bands you'd think is Led Zeppelin. It's the Rolling Stones. And if I'm honest, I love a good needle drop, but a well-done needle drop, not an obvious one sometimes. And some of these are so on the nose. Like the Thin Lizzy's The Boys Are Back in Town, the first time they step back in an arena. And like, yes, it's super cheesy and obvious, but also I can exactly see that scene in my head already, right? So I can see it working, having a classic rock music, but in the proper old-fashioned medieval setting. And just everyone not mentioning it at all and it not being a thing would absolutely be awesome. Or I think, though, the cost of doing it, the playlist would be more than the cost of making it. So I think, hey, do what My Lady Jane did on Amazon. Get other bands in to re-record all the classic tracks, and they might be a little bit cheaper. I love the allegory of the mercenaries as rock stars and like the band's lifestyle. You know, going on tour. There's a bit where they're selling tour T-shirts of the mercenaries going around from town to town. I just love little things like that, and I love how all today's younger bands and mercenaries are posers who haven't actually been in any proper fights, and it's all like pretty boys preening and you can just see the whole commentary that he's got on the music industry is really there as well. Like I say, the book really dives into the idea of the band of mercenaries as an actual band. So Gabe, who needs to rescue his daughter, he's like the charismatic frontman. Ganlion is like clearly the lead guitarist because he wields a magical axe. You know, the allegories aren't too deep there. Patrick Skulldrummer, I mean, the clue's in his name there. Moog, too, the wizard, is literally named after a keyboard, the Moog synthesizer. And that leaves us Clay Slowhand Cooper, our main protagonist, who has a shield. So he's he's a reliable guy. He's your bass player. And, you know, I just love how this is all constructed. Also, there is a fantastic running joke throughout the book about an owlbear that I still laugh about now, thinking about it. And the insanity in the big battle scenes is just, how many times do you watch a big action scene and it just starts kind of washing over you a little bit? You know, this has so many funny moments in the end battle scenes where 1 minute you're like, oh shit, they're going to kill that character. And then something hilarious happens. And then something even funnier happens. Like I say, the closest comparison is got medieval Guardians of the Galaxy mixed with Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves. That's as close as I can come to it. So, TV or film? It could work actually as a really simple 3-act film. You know, the band gets back together, they go on the road, and then massive battle at the end. But that does make it a little bit too similar to Dungeons and Dragons. And also, the end battle is so epic, though, you do kind of need a movie budget to really... Because as I was reading, I was like, holy shit, this would cost so much money to do.
You say that now, but Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Like, TV has budget now.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, Last of Us.
Again, do you know what, though? Again, it would work as best on TV on Apple or HBO. Who just would, because I trust them to get this right more. Casting as well, Marie, I didn't think about this, but when I was looking for different casting suggestions, someone said, and this might suck you into it, they said the tone of it is a little bit our flag means death, though less gay. I mean, but
I love
you
that,
lost me. Like,
but then it said I can only now see the two actors to play Moog the Wizard, and that is Rhys Darby or Matt Berry. Either of them is perfect casting for a extravagant wizard, shall we say?
I would go Rhys Darby because we don't see him enough.
No, yeah, give him a lead role.
Exactly.
For Gabe, the Charisma Machine. Oh, okay, I did write Pedro Pascal again, but I think that was a joke. And the internet just literally.
Did you steal my notes? Like, is that how much influence I have on you these days?
Pedro.
I literally start writing, and the next word is Pedro Pascal for some reason. I mean, the internet basically just cast people from Game of Thrones again because they weren't, cast Jaime Lannister. No, not really. I don't see him at all. Out of left field choice, one I saw, someone suggested Jason Sudeikis, Ted Lasso himself, and I was like, that is an awesome idea because I could absolutely see him as because when you've seen a lot of his films, and especially on his Saturday Night Live sketches, he does play the really charismatic, bumbling guy well, you know, and I was like, that absolutely, drop him in. He would be awesome in this. For Clay, I mean, you do need someone like Dave Bautista. He is just got that steady family man, or post The Boys, Carl Urban would be a really good choice as well. Someone suggested Sholto Copley for Matrick, and I can absolutely see that. For Ganlion, although he's the main warrior guy, someone did suggest Tom Hardy, but I can't really see who that would be yet. Also, and here's where it gets a little bit gay for you, Marie. Rose, who is the daughter, is gay. And the cycle book is called Bloody Rose, and it's from the point of view of her girlfriend, who gets caught up in her adventure, and which is actually this adventure that you're seeing from a different point of view in this first book. And fan choices for this. Again, everyone just seemed to pick red-headed young actresses. They went, oh, Sadie Sink. Oh, Sophia Lillis. There are other red-headed actresses out there. Not a lot, but basically everyone just picked red-headed and young. Well, I would like to pick for the always murdered way too soon in almost everything she's in. And I'm talking Lockwood & Co. I'm talking Free Body Problem. Lily Newmark. I really feel sorry for her because she's in Alien Earth coming out soon. And she's not high up on the cast list. So I just know she's going to die horribly in that again. I mean, the poor girl. In terms of tone and director, this has to be Taka. It has to be. I could just see it in my head. The problem is he's already kind of made this film already with Thor Ragnarok. So I don't know if you want to do it again. But, Rhys, have a word. Say, look, I've got this brilliant magician role I want to play. Cast it. I just think the mix between classic rock and roll mixed with high comedic fantasy. This is, I don't know why this hasn't been adapted yet. And it's actually funny because if you go on the website, he's like, why, yes, this would make a brilliant TV show and film. Here's my agents. And so he's clearly trying to get it made. And like I said, the second book came out, which was kind of like a sidequel. And on my birthday this year, the third book in the series is due out. So I was like, yay. So it's due to be delivered on my birthday. So I definitely think I've sold this to Luke already.
Oh, God, yeah. I'm sold.
Anne-Marie.
I mean, yeah, possibly. I mean, Kings of the Wyld has been on my TBR for a very long time, so I have been aware of it. I'm very surprised that you said, like, this is fantasy Guardians of the Galaxy and then not went with James Gunn when it comes to direction, because that man knows how to choose a soundtrack. Like,
yeah. The problem is, though, it's so on the nose, all of it. But it's so well done, and the characters are so oriented. I don't mind it. I just don't know whether he would want to go back to the well again so many times. And also, he's got to be, God King Overlord of DC now as well, and put up with all the Snyder fans for the next year. Yeah. Okay. Well, moving on. Luke, what is your second book?
Oh, I've been waiting to talk about this book for years. So my second book is The Strings of Murder by Oscar de Mora. As you can see, the cover is absolutely gorgeous. It's the reason why I picked it up, because I don't know if you two could probably agree with me. You go to a bookshop nowadays and every book looks like it's made and designed by the same bloke.
Yeah.
So the cover itself pulled me in. I'm going to read you the blurb. Right. Edinburgh, 1888. A violinist is murdered in his home. The dead violinist's maid swears she heard 3 musicians playing in the night, but when only one body in the locked practice room and no way in or out, the case makes no sense. Fearing a national panic over another ripper, Scotland Yard sends Inspector Ian Frey to investigate under the cover of a fake department specialising in the occult. However, Frey's new boss, Detective Nine Nails McGray, actually believes in supernatural nonsense. McGray's tragic past has driven him to superstition, but even Frey must admit that this case seems beyond reason. And once someone loses all reason, who knows what they will lose next. This series, there's 7 books in the series. I cried when it ended. I'm still not over the fact it ended, to be honest, because I love these 2 characters. So the simple premise is there's been another murder, a very brutal murder up in Edinburgh, up in 1888. Scotland Yard is terrified that it's either Jack the Ripper or Jack the Ripper sort of copy. So they send their best detective, Ian Frey, up to Edinburgh to basically figure it out. When he's up there, he meets Nine Nails McGray, who is a no-nonsense Scot who just he's brilliant, to be honest. Who kind of takes Ian under his wing. That Ian's he's a gentleman of the time, a British gentleman, so he doesn't believe in this whole sort of supernatural and ghost sort of stuff. But as the story and as the books go on, it's very grounded, but it's also very supernatural. So you get witches, you get the occult, you get poisons, you get sort of like different types of ideas of things that will make you like madness, about what makes a person mad. And as it goes on, like his sister hasn't spoken for years, she's in an insane asylum, and you keep each book retells sort of the story of what happened with Nine Nails and his sister, but you learn new details each time. And as it goes on, you start to unravel more mysteries of like how it's all interlinked with witches, how it's all interlinked with the occult and the supernatural. And the author, Oscar de Mora, he's a violinist as well, but he has a PhD in chemistry. So every time he talks about poisons and
so he's a show off, is what you're saying, really?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, but he's an absolutely brilliant author. I spoke to him a few times. He's invited me to do his book signings. I've actually got a few of the books on my shelf that are signed by him. He's an absolutely great guy, but it's one of those where it's like Skulduggery Pleasant. It's so under the radar, but it deserves to be seen more by more people. And I love that it's grounded, but at the same stage, it's very not grounded as well, because you've got the occult, you've got the supernatural, you've got all these very mystical things as well. It would have to be a series. There's so much detail in this, and it's set in Edinburgh, and it'd have to be shot in Edinburgh, in mostly the old part of Edinburgh, which where the castle is and all that.
Well, luckily, Netflix literally just filmed the show in Edinburgh, didn't they? Department Q was all shot there.
Yeah. Well, it could be done through Netflix. It could be done through the BBC. Whoever has the budget. This one doesn't need a high budget. It just needs to be shot on location. You need the old houses. You need people on horse and carriage on stuff like that. Because they go down to Lincolnshire. Because again, it has a lot of real world history in it as well. Because Lincolnshire is linked to the witches. So you travel all the way all over England to us. And even one of them, I think it's the second book or the third book, links in Bram Stoker's. He's in that one, and it's written like a play. In that one, it's actually written like Dracula, where like it's told in sort of notes and letters, which is a great homage to sort of Bram Stoker. It was kind of difficult to cast this one because you need somebody who can be very British and posh but likable. You've got to be able to like him. You've got to be
Jonathan Bailey.
Jonathan Bailey would be great. That's not who I chose, but you need somebody who can be British and posh but likable, but also be a bit of a twat, basically.
Dan
but
Stevens.
Also, yeah,
Lieutenant.
Dave. Well, it's funny you said Dan Stevens. I did choose Dan Stevens for Ian. Right. I feel like he's skinny, but he's also he because Ian is sort of a character he doesn't believe in any in the supernatural stuff, but he's not a coward. It's like the fact of he will run in head first to things, and he's always questioning things, and even he can't say, even when it comes to the point of where he does get supernatural, and like Nine Nows is looking at him like, see, like I told you, you've got to have somebody who's like, yeah, okay, you're right, so be able to do that. As for Nine Nows, it needs to be Scottish, has to be Scottish. Doesn't have to be a big bloke, just somebody who's muscly.
What age range are we talking?
We're talking. I don't know how old this actor is, but he was in How to Train Your Dragon recently. Gerard Butler. The reason I went Gerard Butler because again he's got the good range where he can do, because things with Nine Nows, he's not serious unless you talk about his sister, then he'll knock you out. He's only serious when he needs to be, but he's quite soft as well. It's just the fact that because of his family's history and his legacy, and because of what happened with his sister and all that, he's very protective. So he has that sort of look. He's like a big bear. He's that look of like, oh, I'm dangerous, don't mess with me. But really, when you get to know him, he's quite soft and he's quite caring. So I was thinking Gerard Butler, somebody who can play the role of somebody who can have a laugh, have a joke, go proper Scottish, but also play well with Ian as well, with like Dan Stevens, which they're like chalk and cheese. You wouldn't think they would get on, and they don't like each other at first, but they get on. And yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. It'd have to be a series, again, BBC, HBO, Netflix. As long as it's a period piece, it has to stay period. It has to be shot on location, and it has to stay true to the supernatural, to the occult. And I just think the occult side of it would work. I like the mysteries and like, especially in this first book, Strings of Murder, of who the murderer is. It's one of those where it's like the twists are incredible. So yeah, that's my second book, Strings of Murder.
Marie, are you sold?
I am. I don't know if this is the same for you guys, but there are some like genres that I don't gravitate to in books at all, but love in TV. And for me, that is historical fantasy or historical fiction. I would never pick up a historical fiction book, but I love that shit when it comes to TV and film. I do not know why, but it's just one of those like things. So yeah, because if it's like a historical fantasy, yeah, I'm there. Like
the story's gripping so that you'll read it fast, but in terms of the story, it's not fast. Like, it's told through like 7 books, and there are many moments when like there's things happening, and Ian or Nine Nows will go to meet Nine Nows' sister in the asylum, and she doesn't talk at all, but there's a big mystery going on with her and why she doesn't talk and all that. It's a lot of dialogue. It's very much of like there's always a case, but there's a mystery. Like, Ian's like the proper detective. He's writing down notes. He's like trying to. He's like Columbo. He'll go back through notes and be like, "Oh, actually, you mentioned this earlier," sort of thing. Whereas Nine Nows, he's very head on. He's like, "Look, I don't care about notes. That guy over there has got the information. I'm going to beat it out of him if he doesn't tell me." So he gets rough. Where Ian's like, "No, let's not get rough. Let's talk it out until it gets a bit physical." Then sort of Ian gets involved. But yeah, it's very historical, very very sort of period accurate, but I love the occult side of it. It's like you wouldn't expect them to go well together, but they do go so well together, especially when they had the witches and all the magic and spells and stuff comes into it.
No, I'm in. I'll give that a try, man. I'll definitely give that a try. Marie, your second book.
So my second book is Greenbone Saga. the first book is Jade City. Now, this is a gritty urban fantasy, which is why I didn't pick it up for a very long time, because I don't gravitate to urban fantasies. But this is a book, a series by Fonda Lee. It's a trilogy. This book gave me a heart attack reading this. This is a mafia story following warring clans inspired by East Asian culture. And the currency and the magic in this book is jade. That's what gives everyone's power. And the more jade you have, the more power you have, not just as the magical element, but as in society. It mainly primarily follows two warring clans, like to the point where the city is split 50-50. And it just keeps you on your toes. And it's one of those stories where nobody's safe. The amount of emotional support donuts you will need for this series is through the roof. Like, you genuinely, like, no one's safe, and that is just the brilliance of it. And I love it as well. And the setting itself, it's inspired by East Asian culture, primarily Hong Kong, Tokyo, and Taipei. And the part, like, it's a fictional city brought together, and it's a fictional world brought together by all these influences. This would have to be for HBO because the violence is just through the roof. Again, this is why I usually don't gravitate to violent stories, but this is one of those ones where, and yeah, it has some proper, like, holy shit moments. And like, I still remember, like, finishing the final book and kind of like just sitting like in silence going, huh? Like, you know, when it's just one of those ones where you're just like, oh God, I've been emotionally destroyed by words on a page again. But yeah.
Emotional damage.
Exactly. One of those.
Was most of the cast in it? Are then the main characters Eastern or Western in it?
They're all. It's an East Asian. All
East Asian.
Yeah. So that's why I also don't really have like a casting list, because
frame of reference, yeah.
There's not that much frame of reference, exactly. And one of the main reasons I chose the books that I did is because, like, representation, like, those stories don't really get shown that much more and more these days. But this, like, would be like really good, because it's like this, like you thought Penguin was stressful. This brings it to another level. This, like, brings it to just like a whole new level. Like, the characters, you will hate them, you will love them, you will just like question sometimes, like why on earth would you do that? But then you would also have your favorite characters. So whenever they get in danger, you like, that's when the like you reach for an emotional support donut. And this would just translate so well, because it is at core like a mafia story with magical elements.
So would you say it's maybe like 70% mafia, 30% magical?
Yeah, exactly. Like, because it's an urban fantasy, so it's like it's like kind of takes place in modern world, but not so much, because you know how like the magic kind of shapes technology, but like it's not a period piece at all. So there's like modern technology in it, so it's like adaptability as well. It would be quite easy. Yeah, the high stakes of this story, it's gripping. It keeps you at your edge of your seats, and I don't gravitate to mafia stories at all. But that just shows how good the series was, because like it sold me from, like, I think chapter 1, like, where
I'm quite interested actually, because although it's not fiction, I read Tokyo Vice and its sequel because I watched the show. And again, just like say, the one guy going out to Japan and getting involved with all the what's the guy's name? Honestly, Jake Edelstein. Yeah, him just going out to Japan and like living there. And I've never seen such a representation of modern day Japan, or where it was set in the 90s, on screen, because it was just, he went out there, had to learn Japan, stayed there for like the year or so they were filming it. I could kind of see, and that was HBO as well actually, so I could kind of see, yeah, you know, film it over in an Asian country, cast it that way, get the like creative teams from something like that, and just do it justice. Yeah, I'm up for that.
I mean, because this is fictional, I know you could like just budget wise say like do it on a soundstage and stuff like that, but obviously, yeah, it needs to have an entire East Asian cast. They do leave In the second and third book, they do travel outside the main city, K-Con, where the story takes place. But it's primarily because the story is primarily about this family and this family trying to keep control over their clan and trying to assert dominance over the other clan, and just the manipulation and the strategic elements that go into it, and just doing a calculated risk or something like that. It is a mafia it is a mafia story, and yeah, it's such a good story. It's such a good story, and more people should read it. But it would work so well as a gritty TV show. It would have to have a higher rating because
it would be doable, because Shogun.
Yeah. Exactly. I was thinking that the whole way through. Yeah. The violence,
the violence and the popularity of Shogun, and then actually bringing in actors. I mean, the majority of Shogun actors had other credits attributed to them, but this would be almost completely East Asian cast.
Cool. I'm there for that. So it comes to my last book, which was a recommendation to me by Marie.
Ooh.
And it's funny because her first recommendation, I started and I bought the trilogy of them. And then I got bored and lost where I was in it. And then my marker fell out and I couldn't be bothered to go back. And I've got 2 more books in the series sitting there. So I need to go back to it. That was The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. And I've got the whole trilogy there. So I need to go back to it. So I was a bit apprehensive when Marie recommended to me Red Rising. Oh. But then you said it's basically Hunger Games in space. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. And as we know, Luke's got an opinion on this as well, which we're going to hear, we can see now on his face. And we will settle this argument at the end by a game of Capture the Castle. But Red Rising is the first in a trilogy, and another trilogy written by author Pierce Brown, who was sickeningly in his 20s when he wrote the book. He was born in Denver, Colorado, and was even at one point working as an NBC page in California. He also wrote Red Rising in 2 months, living above his parents' garage in Seattle. And the synopsis of Red Rising is, in a distant future where society is divided by a colour-based caste system, Red Rising follows Darrow, a young miner from the lowest class. Believing he's contributing to a noble mission to terraform planets for future generations, Darrow lives a hard but hopeful life beneath the surface of Mars. When tragedy strikes and he discovers the truth about the oppressive world he inhabits, Darrow is drawn into a dangerous rebellion. To bring down the ruling class from within, he must infiltrate the society, navigating a brutal world of power, betrayal, and violence, where survival means becoming as ruthless as those who rule. Red Rising is a darkly thrilling tale of revolution, sacrifice, and identity, a blend of high-stakes political intrigue, of violent competition, and human drama in a future where destiny is forged in blood and ash. Now, as we say, Marie, you pitched this to me as Space Hunger Games. And you're pretty much on the money there. But it was such a fun, easy read for me. I'm literally halfway through the 3rd book, Morning Star, right as we record this. Yes, there is not a bone of originality in this story at all. But let's face it, unless you're the ancient Greeks, every story has been done already. And I like the way the author combines the different story archetypes in a relatively new and interesting way. I mean, if you think about it, right, there are only so many stories, and whenever a story is a hit and people go, oh, that's original, it's not original, it just hasn't been done that way with that new twist on it in so long. Do you remember when The Others came out and everyone was like, it's amazing?
Yeah.
Because everyone, spoiler for The Others, everyone was dead in it except her. That's been done loads over the years. I mean, Carnival of Souls was Sixth Sense when it comes along. He was, it's all been done before, but it just hasn't been done in so long. Or because when a film's a big hit or a show's a big hit, getting off point slightly, you get loads of imitators and they're never as good as the one that hit it big in the first place. So you need to wait that 10, 15, 20 years, 25 years down the line when someone does a similar story but does it well and you go, oh, it's so clever and original. And this is kind of what I feel with this. I mean, it's not even going back that far because Hunger Games are still being written because obviously Suzanne Collins still needs money. The characters are really well written in it, and the first book feels like when you're playing a massive RPG and you've just completed the prologue chapters of the game and then the world map opens out. That's how I felt, is you learn about the greater world and the story of the book. And you just kind of feel dwarfed by the size of the universe. And that's how Darrow feels in Red Rising when he learns the truth about his people when they're placed in society. And I like the book's use of Roman-style houses. It does give it a very, very Space Game of Thrones vibe, even more than Dune and Sisterhood. Again, also with the shocking violence in it. Once the backstory and the inciting incident of Darrow is sorted out, I would say that 3/4 of this book is very much just the Hunger Games in a forest, with various warring houses competing to win a prize. Now, what's great is here, when we are introduced to the rest of the characters that will go on to become Darrow's best friends and worst enemies throughout the 3 books. Marie, this is where you can briefly talk about Severo, your favourite character.
Oh, I love Severo so much. Without giving anything away, because I don't want to spoil anything for you as well. In Morningstar, let's just say, has Severo gotten his cosmetic procedure yet?
I never got that far.
Trying to remember, because I feel like there was a joke about something.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, I think he has. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just that, like, Severo's batshit insane, and I love it so much. But he is just, like, I think Severo has become one of my favorite fictional characters of all time. Just how unhinged he is, but also he is like your ride or die. He will stick with you no matter fucking what. I just love him for it. And I don't think I loved him as much in book 1. As you like proceed, like your love will grow more. And I think I fell more in love with him in book 2 and especially 3. Yeah, I just love like following a character where you're not exactly sure what they're gonna do next. And like it's gonna be either like the most genius idea in the world or the most stupidest thing ever or something somewhere in between.
Right. And Luke, not a fan.
No.
Why?
Hate would be a strong word because I don't hate the book, because that's a very strong word. For me, to tell you the truth, all jokes aside, I think the reason I don't like it is at the time of reading it, I'd read so many books like it. I read The Hunger Games. I was reading Maze Runner. I'd read The City of Ember. I'd watched, I think, the first, what's it called? They only had 2 movies and the third one went to streaming.
I know the one you mean.
Divergent, right? I watched the first one, didn't like it. And I feel like when I first started to read it, it was around the time of, it was the oversaturation of this genre. And so as I was reading, I thought, I've already read this story. But I gave it a go. I read through it, and I liked the main character. I just didn't enjoy it. For me personally, was the fact of it was Hunger Games in space, and I'd already read that. And because I'd read it like in Hunger Games, I thought, well, I enjoy that one, so I'd rather read that. I gave the second book a go. I'll be honest, I never finished it because I just couldn't get, for me personally, I couldn't get over the fact of I've already read this story. Maybe it's one of those I'll go back to, but that's the reason I just didn't enjoy it. Is the fact of it was just, for me, it was the oversaturation of like, I was preached something different when my friend was telling me about it. He never mentioned anything like it's this or that. So I went in thinking it's new, it's brilliant, everybody's raving about it. And then to go in and to find it's something you've already read, I think that's what put me off. So I think it was a bad timing for me, possibly. So I might go back to it one day, but I think it's possibly just bad timing. That's the reason why
So if Marie had recommended it to you by going, it's Hunger Games in space, expectations might have been different.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have started it straight away. It'd probably be like, I'll build up to it,
Yeah.
But it's a good series, but it just wrong timing for me.
But I think that comes back to what I said at the start, is that, like you say, there was oversaturation of this type of story.
Yeah.
But now, because I'm reading it now, and I didn't watch Divergent. I kind of, Hunger Games was kind of the only one of those YA ones I really watched or read, and I read them all, enjoyed them, didn't like love them up to that high level. I just like, oh yeah, they got better as they went on. I thought as well. It was that whole thing of the audience growing with the thing. See, I was always against the Hunger Games from day one when because I was an old school Battle Royale fan.
Oh yeah.
Like I had the import DVD when it came out, when it's still not legally available in America, I believe. And then apparently there is the urban legend, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like it was because I think I Googled it a couple of times, that when Suzanne Collins first handed in a manuscript of the Hunger Games, the Battle Royale film was coming out, and everyone was just like, you might want to change that a little bit because it's really similar to this. And that's what a publisher told her. And then she put in all the stuff about the fashion in the capital. And then I went, okay, that's enough changes. That'll do. People can have the same idea, right? It's fine.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you're going back to Lord of the Flies anyway, really, aren't you? So it's... But I think, so let's think, would this work best as a show or a movie? Well, it's a close call, right? The first half an hour could be Darrow's intro, the next 30 minutes, him acclimatizing to his new surroundings, and the next hour, the war games. But let's be honest, it's TV again, right? Because it's like each book could be an 8 to 10 episode season. Easy. We already do have Space Game of Thrones with Dune Legacy and Foundation. This kind of reminded me of Foundation a lot, but without the density. It's more, I think, and this could be a bigger hit than Foundation and cheaper to make, I think. because Foundation must cost all the money in the world at Apple, and no one really watches it. It's such a dense, deep sci-fi show. I mean, I love it, but even I had to watch season 1 twice and then listen to the official podcast to understand what I just watched with season 1. And season 2, it was a little bit easier to get going, and then season 3's out very soon. I'd be interested to see if the books of Red Rising are as popular as Foundation and what their inbuilt IP audience would be as well. That'd be interesting to see if it's worth. I'm sure that's how all the studios decide how to commission stuff.
I mean, I think they're definitely. I mean, the books themselves have developed a bit of a cult following. I actually when I started the books, I knew nothing about it. I had no idea this was about a royale story. I just started it. I generally think Neil, you give it a bit of a disservice where you says there's not an original bone in this book, because what makes this book so unique is the writing, and which is why I'm a bit hesitant with a adaptation, because what makes this book, in my opinion, good and also better than The Hunger Games is Darrow's narration. Because let's just face it, Katniss's narration in The Hunger Games, she's, let's just say, a bit of a brat. She thinks everyone is out to get her, and even when they're just clearly being nice, it's become kind of a mean. Where Darrow's narration is so poetic. I mean, just the opening line of the book, which is just it hits you on Mars there is not much gravity, so you have to pull the feet to break their necks. And it's just I've got a bit of a twisted soul. But that line came to Pierce Brown as he was walking just down the street, and then he went home and wrote the whole series. He's not a good person to Google because you would feel so inadequate. Not just he's a talented writer, he's also a very good-looking man. I don't know if you saw a photo of him, but damn, when I saw an interview with him, I was just that is not fair. You can't have everything. You can't be a brilliant writer and look that good as well. But then again, battle royale stories do really well, so this could be a very successful adaptation. I think the only thing, and that's where people don't I think get put off by the book series, is the violence. In this book is brutal, not just physical violence. There's quite a lot of sexual assault in this book as well, and that puts a lot of people off, understandably. That is not everyone wants to read or see that. So I think that's where it makes it less accessible, because when it comes to Hunger Games, yes, obviously there's still that element of violence, but it's still in a way quite toned down, I think, compared to just the sheer brutality that happens in this series. I mean, the tunnel scene alone, when you get to the tunnel scene, you're just holy fuck!
That's literally what I was just about to say, the tunnel scene in the first one. Yeah, I mean, over the course of a full season, you could really tease out the character turns and the betrayals, dig more into the class system, and spend much more time on developing Darrow. I mean, I could already see, we already know what the ending of the first episode would be, don't we? Yeah. It would be the bit with
It would be the opening line.
Now, look, whoever plays Darrow has a hell of a lot of heavy lifting to do, being the main protagonist. They need to be deeply conflicted, but also able to pull off the massive action scenes. So you kind of need that perfect balance between leading man, action star, and actual proper actor as well.
And they need to be Irish.
Irish?
Yeah. Yeah, the Reds are just inspired by the Irish.
I like how I got that, but Neil didn't. I didn't like it.
So often. Scouring the net, the most obvious choice, which everyone said, and it's completely wrong, and I completely disagree with, because he's already done it in June. Everyone was like, oh, Chalamet. No.
He's also too pretty.
Yeah, 3 more realistic choices I've seen. George McKay from 1917. Yeah. I will flash up a picture now. Although he's a little too old at 33. And also, He's only a year older than Lewis Pullman, who was another good suggestion people had.
God, he looks younger.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I think they also might need to age up the characters a little bit for on-screen, potentially.
I don't know, because the characters are in their 20s, so that's...
By the second book they are. They're still teenagers in the first one, aren't they, I think?
Yeah, but teenagers are usually played by people in their 20s.
Mid-20s, yeah.
Have you seen Grease? Most of them are 30.
Oh, they were so old when they did that. Slightly younger and mentioned quite a bit is Archie Madekwe from Saltburn.
Yeah.
Who was the cousin character, yeah. Another pick I saw, and Marie, I don't know if you'd be right for this, but you love the actor, Joe Locke.
No.
No?
Darrow needs to like have a physicality to him.
He could go to a Marvel gym.
No, he said he tried to bulk up. It just doesn't happen. His
All right, fair
metabolism
enough.
doesn't allow it. Yeah, I don't think so. And as I said, the character does need to be Irish and like have a convincing Irish accent. One of those cases, again, like especially when you're with young actors, it, I think can be an unknown. And then like all them like other characters.
Well, there's someone you can look up after who when I was doing my search, a relatively unknown actor called George Jacks. He's had small roles in indie films like Black Dog and Sunny Dancer. But looking at his IMDb headshot, he absolutely looks the part in my head, like more than any of them. And you can see his picture now. For Mustang, again, the picks are just people are going for the obvious choices. Someone said Freya Allen from The Witcher. She's okay in The Witcher. She's not been very good in anything else she's done so far, so I wouldn't cast her in such a big role yet. Another suggestion was Hunter Schafer, but again, that's Hunger Games prequel. Two picks I really like, though, and I absolutely would go for Emma Mackey from Sex Education, who is always brilliant in everything she's in. And she's that age where she could play. You know, she could still get away with playing younger, and then as the series goes. Or one of my other favourite actresses, who's not that big but is always brilliant, Thomasin McKenzie from Jojo Rabbit.
Ooh, yeah.
She's doing a lot of horror at the minute, so you know, come and do a sci-fi. Severo, Marie, any thoughts?
No, I mean the obvious would be Culkin, but he's way too old. Like it has to be. So like
that's literally what came up when I was searching, and I went age appropriate. And they recommended Jack Dylan Grazer, the best friend from Shazam.
Yeah, I can see it. He was in It, wasn't he, as well? He was.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then someone said the kid from Electric State, Woody Norman, would be a good pick as well. Because you want small and wiry and slightly crazy.
Yeah.
Kieran Culkin, like 20 years ago.
There's got to be like another Culkin sibling around somewhere they can just pick up. Hey, you. Someone did actually suggest Will Poulter before he got buff.
Yeah, I mean, no, again, he's too old.
Too old now, yeah.
Wouldn't work.
Now, the other thing I wanted to mention was creatives, because creatives on this type of show, when I was doing a bit of session, someone said, you want someone along the lines of Toby Haynes and Tony Gilroy from Andor, because you get the focus on story and character over, you know, they know how to do an amazing CGI show, but the focus is on the characters and the story and the dialogue rather than, oh, look at all the pretty stuff and not worrying about it, because you know they get that right, and that's how this has to work. Another suggestion someone said was Peter Craig, who actually worked on Mockingjay, but also recently worked on The Batman, and that kind of, I can see a creative who's done that kind of thing. For directors, I think you need some kind of cross between Gareth Evans for the action and making those space battles look amazing on a relatively smaller budget, or for oppressive dystopian imagery with political depth, Alex Garland. I think he'd be a superb choice for someone to do it. And Luke, what is your final book for us?
Mine is one of the weirdest books I read during lockdown. I'm even after I read all 3 books, and I'm still questioning what the hell I read, but I loved it. So does it really matter? So it's called A Wizard for Hire by Obart Sky. I'll read you the blurb. So 14-year-old Ozzy lives near Portland, Oregon, and is desperate for help. His scientist parents have been kidnapped after discovering a formula that enables mind control. Their work was so top secret, Ozzy is afraid to go to the police, but without help, he fears he'll never find his parents. Then he stumbles across a classified ad in the local newspaper that says, Wizard for Hire. Ozzy has read about wizards in books like Harry Potter, but wizards couldn't actually exist today, could they? After Ozzy meets the wizard Labyrinth, aka Rin, he's even more skeptical. Right, so I read this book and the following 2 books during COVID lockdown, and the reason why I fell in love, it's a YA novel. It's so brilliantly done and it's so funny, but it's the main character, the wizard Rin. There are many moments in this book where you sit there, where you're like, I don't know if this guy's fucking crazy or he's genuinely a wizard. You know what I mean? Like he's either a man who's had a midlife crisis and believes he's a wizard and just wears like a nightgown and a wizard's hat and a few badges and calls himself a wizard, or he generally is, right? Like is he meant to be in home, or is he, safe?
Oh, so it plays with that quite a bit. And
you're
not sure as a reader.
So
okay.
you never know. It's never answered. But that's the beauty of it, is the fact of it makes no sense, but you don't want the answer to be answered because how the character is and how it's written. You want to question it, but at the same stage you want to believe. And the whole point of the story is the fact of Ozzy. He's lived on his own after his parents were kidnapped. He's been brought up by a mechanical owl that his father makes. His father's a genius called Clark. And so Clark, he's a robot owl who has to be charged by the sun, who's brought him up. Ozzy's been brought up on the books as well. He's read all of his dad's and his mom's science papers as well as all the books that they had. So he because he doesn't know what the outside world is because he's lived in a cabin in the woods. He doesn't know how to interact with anybody. So he's very naive. He's very trusting. So when he goes to look for evidence about his parents and he's looking for help, he sees a wizard. Why wouldn't he believe that wizards exist? Because he doesn't know any better. So you do kind of sit there in the first book of like, is Rin trying to just take this kid's money, or is he generally being a detective, being a wizard, and solving the case? And as the story goes on, you learn more about Ozzy, you learn more about his parents, you learn more about Siggy, who is Rin's daughter, who Ozzy becomes friends with and becomes a bit of a love interest with. And the whole idea of the story is that you do have this overarching story of trying to find out this formula, trying to find out what Ozzy's parents were working on, and the big mystery there. But for me, the reason why I loved it so much was just for Rin as a character, is the fact of the many parents of like, he's a good dad, but at the same stage, he ran away when she was a little, you know. Is he crazy? Is he not? Is he actually a wizard? Because there's a lot of things that happen in this story where it's either coincidentally he got really lucky and it just so happened to happen, like a lightning strike when he said it was going to, by accident, you know, or did he actually have magic and make a lightning strike, or like a sea monster or whatever? And it's one of those where you sit there and you think, did he do it? Did he not do it? Was it coincidental? Is he a wizard? Is he crazy? Should he be around children? Is he safe? Should he be in a home somewhere? You know, but it's so well done and so well written. And again, as we were saying, it's as the books go on, the idea is the maturity of the characters, they grow up, so the reader grows up with them, so the tone changes. So by the time you get to the last book, there's a lot more risk of life and death and that sort of thing. It's just one of the books of like, no one's ever heard of it. It's a YA book that came and went. The author hasn't written anything since. He's wrote other books, but he wrote these 3 books, hasn't written anything since. And it's a complete shame because I think this author, Obar Sky, I think he's absolutely brilliant. I just wish he would write more. It's like, I just want him to. As for sort of who I would cast, this was an easy one, but hard one. So Ozzy, again, it's the same problem that you had with yours, Neil, was the fact of it's trying to find somebody who's young and naive, but at the same stage is incredibly talented. And I couldn't think of any sort of young actors. All I could think of was the Stranger kids, but they're not kids anymore. They're like 19 to 20 now.
So what's the age? What's the age for the kid in it?
So Ozzy,
At the start,
I think he's about 12 to 13. So like when he comes out, he's coming to be sort of a young lad when he
right. So you literally just cast the kid from 28 years later, who's 14, because he was amazing in it last night.
Yeah. I've heard he's really, really good, to be honest. I haven't seen the film yet.
You've got the kid from Adolescence as well, who's going to be big in everything as well. He's around the same age, so.
Oh yeah. Well, like I said, it's set in America, so they have to be American. So as long as they can do an American accent convincingly, that should be fine.
All British kids can do an American accent, it's fine.
But yeah, as long as they're naive, they got to be tall, but they've also got to be sort of, because Ozzy, because he's been brought up by Clark, he's right and wrong is the fact of, don't do that. You know, he's very by the books, follow the rules sort of thing. So again, like, he's very naive. As for Rin, the wizard, you need somebody who is a brilliant actor who can so convincingly sort of convince you that he's sort of might be crazy, but he's also a hero. He's also a good guy. He's also a good wizard. You need somebody who, again, has the gravitas.
Nicolas Cage.
So, no, well, he did come to mind, but then I thought, who's like Nicolas Cage, but deserves more recognition, who deserves to be more of Sam Rockwell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have said any role, to be fair, and said Sam Rockwell. Yes.
No, Sam Rockwell, he's a brilliant actor. I'm a huge fan of his, and not just for the dancing, but he's one of them actors of like, he deserves more of a limelight shot because he's good in everything he's in, but he just doesn't get enough. He's usually always a side character, sadly. But so Sam Rockwell, he'd be great as Rin because, again, he'd be able to pull off convincing you of is he mad? Is he not? But he's also got the charm, and he also could play somebody who's very brave and very much like a detective sort of wizard. Clark, again, because he's a robot bird, I just went with Alan Tudyk because he can do no wrong. His voice, he voices everything. I don't know if you watch Resident Alien. Resident Alien is a brilliant series.
Jose's a big fan. He's recommended it to us a few times, and Ben, I think, in the past.
It's amazing. So I went with Alan Tudyk. There's many funny moments with Clark as well, because again, Clark being a bird, being like a robot and all that, it's very nice. There's many moments where he's humping lamps and things like that, and I was just having to tell him to leave him alone. And he's like, and then he's trying to flirt with like street lamps and things, and it's just funny. Again, this is a YA thing, so like it's somewhat mature, but also somewhat for kids as well. And then for Siggy, I went with I don't think I'm going to pronounce the name wrong, but she was in Ghostbusters. McKenna Grace,
who I said for same actress for Dior in Empire of the Vampire.
Yeah, she's got one of them faces where she could easily sort of like discredit you with a look. This girl, she's got one of the faces where like the moments when like Ozzy is explaining to her about what's going on, or Rin's being a bit sort of odd. She has those moments in the books where she looks at Ozzy like, she gives him that look of like, I'm sorry, my dad's crazy, but I love him. You know, he is the way he is. So you need somebody who can do that as well as act and but also be a bit of a love interest to Ozzy, but also have the emotional beats when she's trying to connect with her dad. But her dad's very much the fact of, I can't be around you because I've got to go back to my wizard school in Clortfelp, I think it's called. And there's all other people there who are wizards as well. And you're thinking, okay, what is it really? You know, is that what the hospital is called, sort of thing. So it's a brilliant book.
They could really play cleverly with that, couldn't they?
Yes, they could do.
The series went on.
It always leaves it open. Even in the third book, you never really get an answer, but you're not disappointed.
Looking for the answer. The story's not about that.
No, it's just the fact it's there, but you don't need it. It's up for interpretation of what you think he is. You can either end the series and be like, he is a wizard, or he's just very lucky.
Schrodinger's wizard.
It is, basically. So yeah, I feel like this could be a movie because the books aren't that long, and there's only 3 books in the series. But I would love to see a proper series just to kind of flush out Rin's character more. Even though I don't want all the answers, I just want a bit, because again, it has like flashbacks of when before Rin turned into a wizard, when he was just a normal muggle, when he was a man. I'd love to see that when he was a dad, and then when he left and had his mental breakdown or what, and then became a wizard. You know what I mean? I'd love to learn more about that and sort of thing. So a movie would be great. I just feel like with a series, you could really flush out Rin a lot more, and you could probably flush out Ozzy's parents and the whole real mystery and the bad guys and all that. But really, you'd watch it for Rin himself. He would be the main character, to me anyway.
I am sold. I'm sold again. Okay, this brings us on to the last book of the day, and Marie.
This was very difficult to pick a final one, but I decided to go with The Wicked Bargain by Cabe Cole Novoa. This was a book that I read last year, and it's just such an atmospheric read, and it's just so good. And the book came out in 2023, and not a lot of people know about it. So I think just having it as an adaptation will, of course, bring more eyes on it. This is a queer Latinx pirate fantasy, and it kind of answers like the question, what happens if you make a deal with El Diablo? And one of the main motivations for the author to write this book was because of the general just like lack of queer representation when it comes to pirate stories. I mean, we've had Our Flag Means Death, but we all know how that ended. Black Sails also did have that queer element, but again, it's a very not well-known show. Even though it is fucking amazing, but not many people know about Black Sails. But here's the thing about it. Pirates were extremely gay. A bunch of men on a boat. Yeah, that sounds completely straight. Like, it's just so, like... so
I worked on a boat for 7 years with Jose. That sounded exactly what you said, didn't it? Yeah.
Not sure you kind of proved my point there. Anyway, but also like just the sheer whitewashing when it comes to pirate stories. This follows a Latin non-binary protagonist as they are on a like crusade for revenge. And this is, I mean, if you love pirates, you will love this this story. Like there are battles. There's like a magical element with El Diablo, and then the characters themselves, Amar and Bass, they're just so unbelievably adorable and just so fun. They're 16 and they're just like had this like giant weight thrust upon them, and suddenly they have to act more older than they actually are because suddenly the world is just they've been clued into the reality of a world that they did not realize existed before. And yeah, it's like everyone loves a pirate story.
Mm-hmm.
And we need more gay pirate stories. And this could be like one of the ones where I generally say this could be a movie because it's a pretty short read as well. I like this could be like just a fun swashbuckling adventure. It does have a follow-up book. I was not the biggest fan of it, to be honest. It was still good. It's just the last third of it went a bit too wacky insane for me. It just did not quite compute. But the first book is truly phenomenal, and I highly recommend anyone checking this out if they like again, one of the genres that I don't gravitate to, historical fiction. But it's I'm not even gonna say it's fun because like it's just atmospheric. It's like it just has like this like where you read it you can hear like you can see the ocean, you can feel like the presence, feel like the mystical elements in it. Mar themselves also has magic, but it's like the queer allegory there where it's they need to hide that part of themselves because they think like they've been told it's dangerous, they've been told like not like it's not normal. So it's just yeah, and more people need to know about this part of history that's just been erased.
I suppose you obviously have to, for casting as well in this, literally the only person I could think of was Vico Ortez from Our Flag Means Death, but they're too old, I think, for the role.
They're way too old, Vico Ortiz.
But it's what he says about representation, though, right?
Yeah.
There is no actors I can even think of who have their profile.
Yeah, non-binary actors, like the only one that comes to mind is Bella Ramsey, but they wouldn't fit this at all. Like this would have to be like a new one. This would be like Heartstoppers, where they would have to like hire new young actors to it. I think you can squeeze in Vico Ortiz somehow. They read the audiobook, which is why, again, I highly recommend if you're going to check out the story, check out the audiobook because they read the audiobook. They've actually done quite a lot of audiobooks and they've become one of my favorite narrators. But it definitely like fills that like hole if you have like like myself an Our Flag Means Death hole in your heart. Like if you miss Our Flag Means Death, definitely check out the audiobook of The Wicked Bargain. You know, I love my queer pirates. Like,
yeah, it's no surprise to me that you had a queer pirate story in it. Absolutely,
we all.
It's so predictable, Marie.
You had me at pirates, to be honest.
I will like talk about Our Flag Means Death till I like go blue in the face. We all know how like furious I am with that cancellation. So just like.
That's why our top 10 cancelled shows episode was over 3 hours. And
you say that like you weren't the main antagonist behind that. Stop blaming us, Neil.
At some point, I'm literally going to use AI to let us know who talks the most in an episode. And I think
it's going to be you. It's going to be you. I guarantee
it's gonna be Marie.
No.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be a lot closer, Marie, than we think. Well, that does round us up on what books we'd like to see adapted, but we asked for comments. And because I did it at the start of the week and not the day that we're recording, we actually got some. And from our friends over at Rebootdeboot, they said, and they went all in on this, it's a H.P. Lovecraft short story called Pickman's Model. There's a narrator. The narrator needs to be Michael Fassbender. Richard Upton Pickman needs to be John Malkovich. Directed by Robert Eggers. Written by Ryan Coogler. I do not know how that works. And production company, Scott Free, Ridley Scott's company. I mean, that is some crazy specificity right there, guys.
We spent a lot of time thinking about that.
Has H.P. Lovecraft ever actually been adapted? Like, I mean,
loads.
Yeah,
but like a general story. I mean, there's like Cthulhu and stuff like that in stories, but
the closest space,
Color Out of Space, Nick Cage. Yeah. In fact, a lot of Nicolas Cage ones over the recent years.
Yeah,
I'm not a Lovecraft fan, so I have no idea. Like, obviously, because I don't do horror. So
I think the closest we could have come to getting something amazingly epic was, is it In the Mountains of Madness? And Tom Cruise wanted to do it, and Guillermo del Toro wanted to make it. and even they couldn't raise the money to get it made because it was going to be like a hard R sci-fi horror in the mountains about a man going insane.
The Toro's so unlucky for budgets.
Yeah, and the thing is, did you see the test footage? They released some test footage online, and I was like, "Oh, it looks amazing."
Oh, did they try to do the Deadpool thing where they accidentally leaked something to see if they could get some kind of traction?
Oh no! Look how good this looks. Shit,
yeah,
I really want to see it.
But the studio said no.
I mean, how can you say no to Tom Cruise and Guillermo del Toro? I mean, it is a very. I've read the book. I've read the short story it's based on, and it's very much like The Thing. So why wouldn't you try and make a film with a much bigger budget? And again, The Thing's what 30, 40 almost years old now.
Yeah.
Do something similar, but again, based on a Lovecraft story. The VHS Abyss movie podcast said to us they'd like to see Netflix do an adaptation of the Choose Your Own Adventure book, The Cave of Time, like how they did Black Mirror Bandersnatch.
I mean, Netflix is always a like not a strong bet because probably they'll cancel it after season 1.
Yeah,
I think that's why none of us actually mentioned Netflix when we did studios. We all know. I think
Bandersnatch is actually gone now.
Yeah.
Yes, they took it off.
Yeah.
Probably costs too much bandwidth, bastards. Seismic Cinema said H.L. McFarlane's The Boy from the Sea. It would need to be an 18 though, for sure.
I haven't seen that one.
It doesn't ring a bell at all. Yeah, I have no idea.
No, I think I had a quick look.
Knowing Seismic, I'm a little bit worried.
H.R. McFarlane, I believe H.R. McFarlane is a friend of theirs, so it's one of their friends' books. So we'll give them a shout out for that as well. So we're definitely gonna check that out because hey, support smaller indie authors.
Yeah, I do have some bonus episodes though.
Go.
I do have some bonus books. I won't go into full detail because I know we haven't got the time. But Carmilla, I know that has been made into a movie before, but I haven't seen any good ones. And Carmilla being the first actual vampire story before Dracula, and it's very gay, and it's a brilliant story. It should be told. I think Marie would agree with me there. Then I've got Mogworld by Yahtzee Croshaw. This is a brilliant one. This is kind of like Skulduggery Pleasant, done in reverse. Basically, a mage gets killed in a battle. A trainee necromancer brings him back, but it turns out the guy he wants to be dead. He was happy being dead. So the most of the book is him trying to find a way to die, but he can only be killed by the necromancer. But the necromancer doesn't know how to kill him. But that's a brilliant story. Monstrous Regiment by Terry Pratchett is an absolutely brilliant book that I can't give away the twist because it will spoil it, but is a story that is very poignant to today. I don't. If you've read it, you'll know why. But it's an absolutely brilliant story. And finally, Flowers of Algernon. There is a movie for this, but again, it's from the 90s. It's not very well done, and the pacing's all over the place. Basically, the long and short of Flowers of Algernon is the fact that there's a gentleman who, in no nice way of saying, he's a bit of he's simple, and he's given a drug, and it makes him super smart. And as the story goes on, he realizes that the people that was around him weren't his friends, that they were making fun of him. And as he gets smarter and smarter and smarter, he realizes how cruel and horrible the world is and the people are. And then he starts to decline again. And then the story changes tone. Then it goes from him as he starts getting dumber and dumber and dumber back to the way he was. Those people that were horrible to him and he ran away from, he ends up going back to because he's regressing. It's a brilliant science fiction story. It's very sad, very emotional, but it's a story that I feel like needs to be told. And
it's an old classic, isn't it? It's an old classic. When I've seen classic sci-fi books, I've seen that on the list all the time.
It's one of my favorites. But again, it's one of those that never gets talked about, and it's a real shame.
Just to wind up, Marie, because I know she's got to get going. I've got a few that I'll just quickly mention briefly.
Breaking the rule, guys. Come on, we agreed on 3.
The guest broke the rule, and he was short.
Yeah, the guest can break the rules, but you can't. You're the host.
The host can do what he wants. So I've got a couple of horrors. The Last Day of Jack Spark is a really good one, and it's being adapted soon as well by the people who did Dashcam and Host and Blumhouse. So I'm looking forward to that. Basically, think an exorcism style one. So he goes around debunking all these exorcisms, and then he gets sent a YouTube video that only he can see, and he starts going a bit crazy. And it's really dark. It kind of mixes Ring with a modern day sensibility of not believing what you see on the internet, but also with like exorcism stuff. It's really clever and really fucking dark and scary as shit, and I really can't wait to see that. The one I mentioned earlier, the Bobby Dollar trilogy by Tab Williams. Come on, monsters, film noir, just Do it. It's quality. Not on this podcast, but for future podcasts, we are definitely going to do an episode on adaptations that were terrible that should be redone properly. And just off the top of my head, World War Z, for the love of God, get it right. The Passage by Justin Cronin, another great vampire one, do it right. And one of the worst films I've seen in years, and I don't know how they managed it with that cast, The Knife of Never Letting Go, the Chaos Walking trilogy. Get it right. Right, so that's all the time we have on the podcast this week. I'd like to thank my co-host, Marie. Marie, where can people find you on the socials?
If you want more queer book recommendations, because I do post them on occasion, you can find me under the handle Life on Mars, which is Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok.
And our first-time guest, Luke, where can people find you on the socials?
I'm on Twitter, because I will not call it X, howdybeans_pod. You can find my podcast on Spotify, you can find me on Apple, you can find me on YouTube, basically anywhere and everywhere you find podcasts now. I am here, there, and everywhere.
And you can find me at Needy Roads on Twitter, Neil Gregory78 on Instagram and Threads, and Neil G78 on Blue Sky. And even now, bizarrely, I haven't named this right, and I'm sure Marie can tell me how to do it properly. I'm at Neil Gregory09 on TikTok, which then actually has the We Needy Roads thing. I don't know how it works. I'm an old person. I'm a middle-aged person. I'm not old.
You can fix that.
For some reason, We Needy Roads is already taken. They'll be hearing from our lawyers. And for more We Needy Roads shenanigans, you can find us on Spotify and also on YouTube, where hopefully you've been watching this. And you can find our full library of episodes. And if you like what you've heard, you can hit that bell icon and subscribe, as we are now uploading a metric shit ton, that's a technical term, of short-form instant reviews as well, and trailer reaction videos. And don't forget to leave us a comment. So make sure to join us next time on your favourite plutonium-powered pop culture podcast. See you then.
We Needed Roads.